Hey Hirsch, how you doing?
Here I am. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Only a couple more days to go, right?
Yeah.
Hey, hey,
Couple
hey.
more days.
It
That's
should be.
cool.
Yep, yep. Congratulations on third time's the charm. November 22nd, Deko Entertainment. My buddy Charlie hooked us up here, and you know, I'm glad.
Me
So
too, man.
yeah. So let's first start off. We're going to go down each track, track by track, but that'll be a little bit farther into the interview. But
Cool.
right now, tell me a little bit about your New England times. I want to know myself, what are some of the things that you asked for on your tour rider?
On the tour rider?
Yes.
Oh man. Lots of liquor.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Cool. Cool. Anything special?
Um, I just, it was kind of your basic rider. We jumped into that and didn't really want to, upset any apple carts and just wanted to be the band that everybody wanted to work with. So it was, yeah, it was normal stuff. Just, some sodas, some decent food, healthy food, drinks, and yes, some liquor. Because we like to drink after the show, not before the show.
Okay, cool. Cool.
And that vodka bottle that some people saw me on stage with, no, it wasn't vodka, it was actually water. So
Cool, 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 cool. Tell me how it was supporting Kiss. I actually got to see that show in New
really,
York.
which one did you see?
I think, did you play Madison Square Garden?
We did 2 nights in a row, yeah.
That was the day. I saw both nights, you know?
Oh, great.
So,
Because, touring with Kiss was just amazing. I mean, first of all, we got treated very, very well by the band. Obviously, our manager Bill O'Coin was Kiss's manager. Paul Stanley produced our first album, so we had a really, really good relationship with all the guys. Um, so for me, watching Kiss play every single night was kind of like rock and roll university for me.
right,
Because after my set, a lot of times I'd be just, go up on stage left and watch the band play and just like, okay, so this is the reality. This is where we want to go.
right,
This is where we are now, and so watching those guys and learning from them and how to be a professional musician, how to be a rock star, if you can, you want to use that word.
right,
Um, that was kind of like an education for me. It's like, this is what you need to do if you want to reach that pinnacle of success.
right.
So, and talk about a lot of fun. I mean, the fans were phenomenal.
Right.
It's funny you mentioned, the Madison Square Garden gig. The next day I was walking down uh, the street. Coin Management was on Madison Avenue, and I was walking down Fifth going over to Madison, and some kid in a rock and roll leather jacket comes up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I saw you play last night at the Guard. You guys were awesome."
Oh,
How cool is that?
oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah,
walking down the street and some rock and roll fan comes up to you and recognizes what you did the night before, and it had a huge effect on him. So those were some of the great moments, man. It was really, really a cool time to be in a rock and roll band.
cool, cool. I remember being down in the studio when Kiss were recording, I forget what album it was, but Gene made a bet with one of the guys I was hanging with. He goes, "Everybody knows me. Everybody knows me. In the whole world, they know me." So my friends goes, "Well, I'll go pick out the next person who walked down the street and see if they know you." It was a little old lady. She goes, "I have no idea who you are." So
Ah, so Gene
so
lost the bet?
yeah,
You're not
Gene
telling me
lost the
Gene
bet.
lost the bet, right?
Yes,
Oh
he
man, he
did.
must he must have
Yeah,
been pissed.
yeah, he wasn't happy. He said, that don't count." So
Right.
anyway, let's get to the album. I have a friend, a close friend actually, that I just talked to about 5 minutes ago, and I asked him about you. His is his quote: "Just a pure joy, a pro. I love how he can hear things that no one else can hear." He goes, "What a badass drummer, Chris Laney."
Oh man. You obviously you know Chris and I love that guy, man. I was can I tell you about our chance meeting
Yes, yes,
back
definitely.
in the day? So I get this email several years ago, and honest to God, I thought it was from a fan. which is
Right.
great. I still love, talking to the fans out there and giving them an idea of, what I do and who I am and all that. So the email from Chris was, hey, I know that you played with Vinnie Vincent and I'm a huge fan of
Right.
Vinnie's and you played in the band Warrior. And can you give me an idea of the songs that you played on?
Right.
And that was it. So I sent back an email to this young man who, this Chris LANEY guy that I didn't know at that point, didn't recognize the name. Of course, I knew Pretty Maids from way
Right.
back when.
Uh-huh.
So I sent him back a note. Hey, nice to hear from you. Thanks for the interest. Played on this song and that song, and did this with Vinny, did that with Vinny. And that was in the Warrior days. And then I also mentioned that after Vinny left Kiss, he came to Boston and hung out with me, and we produced and worked on all the songs that were eventually going to be on the Invasion album.
Right.
And that was the extent of it. And
Uh-huh.
then about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months later, a year later, maybe, I get another email from this kid, and I recognize the name. Oh, this is Chris LANEY guy, and there's an attachment
Right.
on the email. So I listened to the attachment, and it was a fan tribute song that Chris explained in the email that he played all the parts on and did some drum machine work for the drums. And I guess what he had done is he had captured Vinny's lead vocal from the song Forbidden, which was
Right.
one of the songs that I worked on with Vinny. And he played all the parts
Uh-huh.
and so all of a sudden it comes to my, oh man, this guy's not just a fan, and no
Right.
offense to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fans out there, we love you all, and don't ever want to lose you. But I figured, oh, this guy's a musician, so I Googled him right away.
Right. Yeah.
Come to find out that he's a guitar player, keyboard player, producer, and recently had joined the band Pretty Maids. And I'm
Right.
like, oh my God, I love these guys. So
Uh-huh.
I looked him up and I saw the videos that he was doing. And so I emailed him back. I said, man, you're Chris LANEY from Pretty Maids. I said, you guys are one of my favorite all-time bands.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we became fast friends. And he had asked me in that email if I would play drums on that song Forbidden.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I said, of course, I would love to. So I laid down a drum track and I sent it to him. So if any fans out there of, Vinnie Vincent, Pretty Maids, myself, Chris, if they want to hear that song Forbidden, just look it up on Facebook or whatever, the social media, and you'll be able to hear it. It's an incredible version of a great song that Vinnie wrote. And I'm playing drums on it with Chris, which is the thrill.
Right.
At that point, he says, hey man, I love your work with New England, love, all that stuff. And would you care to write some songs with me?
Right.
And
Yeah.
here I am right in the middle of, finishing up third time's a charm. And I had a couple of unfinished tracks. So I sent him one of the songs that's on one of my favorite songs now, Angel in the Sky.
Hmm.
And Chris sent me back like all the guitar parts and finished up the song, and so we're co-writers on that song. So
Right.
that's my Chris LANEY story. And Chris, I love you, bro. I mean, it's like you did such an incredible job on the album. He co-produced most of the songs on the album with me. He mixed most of the songs on the album. A couple of them he didn't, but the ones that he did, I absolutely adore and love. They're great. So that's my Chris LANEY story, man. Great guy. Great
Well,
guy.
what did he mean by you could hear things that no one else can hear?
It's like I think you could pretty much say that about a lot of producers or most producers, and that's our job.
Right.
Um, after I left Los Angeles when the Vinnie Vincent thing, the second version of Vinnie Vincent broke
Right.
up. Um, Actually, wait a minute. Let me get this right. No, this was the first version of it when we were in Warrior. I came back to Boston and just continued along with my producing career, and that's the job. So for instance, if the first thing I'll do is I'll have a band, yeah, play that song for me.
Right.
So they'll play the song, and the chorus will have a great hook, but it might meander off somewhere else where it shouldn't. There shouldn't be that part in the hook in the chorus.
Right.
So I'll say, guys, you've got 4 lines in that chorus. It's
Right.
an A, B, C, D arrangement. So the first line is the A is the main hook. And then you
Right.
go to a secondary hook, which is the B. And then you go to the C section and then the D section. You don't need those 2 sections. So let's
Right.
just take the first and second section and make that the chorus. So
Right.
those are the things that you hear as a producer
Uh-huh.
that the band may not hear because they love that extra C and D part
Right.
in the
Yeah.
chorus.
Uh-huh.
So I'll minimize it to A, B, A, B, and
Right.
that will become the new chorus. And all of a sudden they've got a great hook. And I think that probably is what he's hearing.
Cool,
So
cool, cool, cool. How'd you hook up with Deko Entertainment?
Giles Lavery, who is managing several bands in Europe and also managing Alcatraz, and by the way, is now the lead singer in Alcatraz. I didn't realize when I met Giles that he had an incredible voice, but
Right.
man, that guy sings his ass off. Um, so Giles and I, hooked up because Jimmy Waldo and Gary Shea are in Alcatraz.
Right.
And between all of our relationships, we all knew each other. So Giles, offered to help shop my songs to
Right.
labels, and so he hooked me up with Deko, and I love it because they're here in the U.S.
Right.
It's an international label. Charlie Calvin's just been wonderful, treated me like a king. I love it, and so that's how that ended up happening. And they've been doing a great job. So I really appreciate all their work too.
Cool, cool. What's this limited edition or limited number of bundles that Deco's putting out for your album?
Oh, good call. So over the years, I'm not really a collector of memorabilia.
Right.
One of my best friends, Gary Boris, who's actually Gary and I had a record label together and released a whole bunch of stuff back in the '90s. Um, Gary is a major collector of gear
Right.
of stuff. So basically, what he did, he came over to my house one day, and I had garbage bags full of stuff that I had saved from the road.
Right.
And Gary went through all of that stuff and just organized it. And out of that, we got a lot of autographed pictures from back in the '80s and '90s, and a lot of memorabilia stuff. So what Charlie had asked me to do, he says, "Well, listen, we're going to we're going to release Third Time's a Charm on CD and vinyl." He
Uh-huh.
said, "Do you have any like autographed pictures of New England and maybe autographed lyric sheets of the band?" So I went through all of this stuff that my buddy Gary Boris had organized for me, and sent a bunch of stuff to Charlie, which is
Uh-huh.
really rare stuff. So for anybody out there who's a collector,
Uh-huh.
those are really, really cool pieces that you might want to purchase from Deco. So that's
Uh-huh.
kind of what we did with the bundles. They're pretty cool bundles.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely collectors will go after that stuff right away. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
I'm a collector. I might have to hook up Charlie and say, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, like,
Yeah. Maybe
so
so. And I'll tell you what, man, I'll make you a deal. If I find anything, I'll send you some stuff for free. How's that sound?
that sounds good to me. Great, man.
All right.
Tell you the truth, when you mentioned Angel in the Sky, that's my favorite song on the
Oh,
album.
great.
So can we go into a little bit of that track and tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, Angel in the Sky. The lyrics were completely done, and the musical part of Angel in the Sky was completely different. And back in the day, I was presenting songs to New England all the time, and John was our chief writer in the band. Gary would come up with lyrics, and Jimmy would come up with some keyboard parts that were pretty unique, and we'd use those in the songs. So I presented the band with Angel in the Sky, and it just didn't, the way it was arranged back then, it didn't make the cut. And that's
Right.
cool. I mean, as songwriters, we all realize we write 20 songs, and one of them's really good.
Right.
So, I started toying with some different chordal arrangements on piano and guitar, and that was one of the songs that was kind of unfinished. So I sent that to Chris,
Right.
and he loved the lyrics and he loved the idea of it. And this was the first song that he and I actually co-wrote and worked on together. And he basically just finished it up and sent me all the guitar tracks and bass tracks, put in all the background vocal ideas, and there are a lot of those are his background vocal ideas, which I absolutely love.
Uh-huh.
And he made it a little more poppy than the original version, which
Right.
I think is fantastic. In this day and age, I mean, everything's getting, really grungy and dirty and metal and everything's, vocals
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that kind of stuff. I can actually do that today. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty sick today.
Uh,
I got the flu.
uh,
I don't mind in my material and my albums having a tremendous diversity in the songwriting and the style.
right.
Um, there's a couple of songs on that album. Lover's Lullaby starts the album off, which is like a, 160 beats per minute, double bass drum, that's in that genre of music,
Right.
and the metalheads are going to love it. Angel in the Sky could be a Billboard Top 40 hit single.
Right. Yeah.
I believe that it's commercial enough to be on the radio today,
Right.
and people will relate to that song. So it's pretty cool. Chris did a great job on that, so I'm loving it.
Cool. Cool. I also love the ballad "Miles and Miles Away." That's a phenomenal song too. Tell me a little bit about that track. I really like it.
Well, my so the Hirsh Gardner Project is my project band that plays out every once in a while. We've disbanded recently because David, my keyboard player, moved down to Florida. But David Sumner is an incredibly talented guy, and I did a lot of work with David on this album. He's played, piano, he's played bass, he's played acoustic guitar. The guy plays everything. He's doing a lot of background vocals with me. He came up with this piano part that I absolutely loved, and that's how Miles and Miles came about. Joe Filoni is my guitar player here in Boston. And Joe came up with some just phenomenal guitar parts throughout that song, and the solos in the song are just amazing. I mean, I'd put him right up there with the top players in the world, man, Bumblefoot and people like that. And by the way, Bumblefoot is playing on the album.
Right.
But yeah, Miles and Miles Away once again. I mean, if hey Charlie, if you're listening, Miles and Miles Away and Angel in the Sky could be Billboard top hit singles. Let's go, bro. Let's get those songs on the radio.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Tell me a little bit about Bumblefoot, Ron. How'd you contact him, or he contacted you, or how'd you get him to get on the album?
Well, this is an interesting story. It's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. Where am I going to start? Well, let's start with the email that he just posted on social media the other day. In 1979, he was at that same gig that you were at Madison Square Garden.
Uh-huh.
And in the email that he just posted up on social media, he says, back in 1979, I was at Madison Square Garden as a young 16, 17-year-old wannabe rock and roll star,
Right.
guitar player. And New England was the very first band that I had ever seen in a concert situation like that. And he was blown away by the band.
Right.
And, the letter goes on to say that he was inspired by New England and, became the Bumblefoot that we all know and love today.
Right.
Moving forward several years, I did a gig with John Fannin in New York City several years ago, maybe about 10 years ago. And Ron was in town, and we had been communicating at that point. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to come out to the gig, man. I want to see you and John play."
Right.
And once again, he was a huge New England fan. Turns out that he actually was doing a video shoot for Guns N' Roses, which at that time he was actually playing with them.
Right.
Came to the gig, was a little bit late, but we met out on the sidewalk outside of the gig, and we chatted for a good 20 minutes to half an hour. Moving forward another few years to my last album, which is called My Brain Needs a Holiday. Ron actually played on one of the tracks on that album. I just sent him an email, "Hey man, are you interested in playing on this song?" And the song starts off with just like a whole minute and a half of just Ron just blasting himself, just
Right.
playing
Yeah.
solo guitar. And then on the current album, he is playing all the guitars on one of New England's most revered songs, "Nothing to Fear."
Uh-huh.
And once again, I sent him a note and just said, "Hey man, would you like to play on Nothing to Fear?" And he said, "Are you kidding me? I love that song." Sent him the basic tracks, like let's say on a Monday.
Right.
And like Thursday or Friday, he sent me like back about 40 guitar tracks.
Wow.
All just perfectly in tune, aligned. Everything was magnificent. I threw them into my Pro Tools rig here at home and in my studio. And I'm listening to this stuff and I'm hysterically laughing because it was just so amazing. The parts that he played were just incredible.
Wow.
So I'm honored to have a friend like Ron, who's just excelled in the music industry and is so well known for his incredible playing. And he's just the nicest guy in the world, man.
Yeah.
Nicest guy. So that's how that came to be. He did that song justice, believe me.
Yeah, I just saw him about 2 months ago. I photographed him, and the singer was Jeff Scott Soto. So, that was a good show. Bumblefoot plays with ease. Like he looks like he's not even like you know, straining or anything like that. He just plays. He's fantastic. You know.
Funny, I saw a friend of mine turned me on to an interview that he did probably within the last month or two. And the interviewer was saying to Ron, he said, what's your six most favorite albums?
Right. Yeah.
And so he's going through all these albums, and they get to number six. And Ron says, New England's self-titled debut album was my one of my favorite all-time albums.
Right. Yeah.
And he runs off screen and he grabbed an acoustic guitar and he came back and he basically played, the first couple of bars of each song on the record. It's like,
Right. Wow.
man, how
Wow.
is this stuff? Well,
Yeah.
the guy's genius. The guy's brilliant. So that was a really enjoyable interview.
Cool. Cool. If someone was going into music and they asked you what the pros and cons are of a new band, what would you tell them?
Well, the pros are you're going to be able to give something back to your audience.
Uh-huh.
And that's something that we as musicians, as teachers, as instructors, professors, I mean, that's what we do. We're always giving something back. And that's the best feeling in the world. That kid that walked up to me in New York City, man, I mean, that blew my mind. It made me feel so good. Um, we played Japan, walking down the street in Japan, having people in Japan come up to you and know who you are.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
It's
that's
like
great. Yeah.
that's something that you've given your fans something and they're giving that back to you.
Right.
There's so much positive stuff going on as a singer songwriter. Every single time you finish a song, whether it's a great song or it's crap, and
Right.
most of them are going to be crappy songs, you're only going to write a few really really good ones, unless you're McCartney. So um, that's those are the pros. It's such a great feeling and a feeling of accomplishment inside of your body and your mind and your soul that you're doing this. The cons are, hey man, the music industry is a dirty, dirty business and it can really, really hurt you.
Right.
And a friend of mine asked me, sometimes I'm a little down and out about the success or non-success of New England,
Right.
and she said, man, you played at Madison Square Garden, you played at Pontiac Stadium, you toured the world. It's like, 99.9% of the people out there don't get a chance to do that.
Right. Yeah.
For the other 1% or 0.1%, it's a rough business. You've got to have a pretty good business mind. You got to be honest. You got to take care of yourself. You got to, don't do drugs. Ain't gonna help you be a better musician, guys. So it's there's the good and bad with everything in life. If you have a positive outlook, you're going to stay on the right side of that track
Right.
and be able to move forward. Don't let it bring you down.
Cool. Cool. What you feeling about vinyl making a comeback?
Oh, I love it, man.
Eh, I haven't had anybody say they didn't like it. You know.
No, Charlie Calv just sent me my 4 test pressings, which I'm going to be listening to today or tomorrow, and I'm thrilled about it. It's just, I kicked myself in the ass. Back in the day, I got rid of all my vinyl. I had like
Wow.
hundreds of vinyl pieces. I moved from place to place and
Right. Yeah.
carrying all this stuff around, but it's there's just something about that needle bouncing along on that vinyl record that it's like old school, but a good record player with a great needle, and it sounds amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
And hey, you get that big 12 by 12 picture of the
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
You can read the writing on it.
Yes. Yeah.
Older guys like me need a pair of glasses to read the CDs these
That's
days.
me.
Come on.
That's me. I got a magnifying glass. I just check it out. You know.
Yeah. So I think vinyl is cool, and it's and also for the musicians, it's kind of a resurgence in making a little bit extra money from the vinyl sales,
Right.
if they own any of their publishing rights or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's all good.
Cool. Cool. What's your biggest memory in music so far?
Oh man, there's so many.
Uh-huh.
Been doing this a long, long time. Well, I'll give you a couple.
Go ahead.
We were we were rehearsing in Braintree, Massachusetts back in 1978 and 79. And we all promised ourselves that we would not play any more club gigs and sell beer. We wanted the next gig. We all promised ourselves our next gig is going to be Madison Square Garden. It didn't have to literally be Madison Square, but that's where we wanted to go. And one of the great memories was once we were signed to Aucoin Management, all the major record companies wanted to see this band, New England. Live, even in 79, the band was just kick-ass. It was, the vocals were down pat. The drums, bass, and guitar rhythm section was just amazing. Jimmy Waldo on keyboards had everything, Hammond B3s, Moog synthesizers, 2 Mellotrons, blah, blah, blah. And on one particular occasion, the big, long black limousine pulls up to our little 30 by 30 rehearsal studio in Braintree, Massachusetts, in this old dilapidated house that I had kind of torn the walls out of and made into a 30 by 30 room. And Clive Davis walks in the door.
Wow.
So, and sits like 10 feet in front of us in a chair with Bill Aucoin and Rick Aliberti. Rick was Bill's second in command at Aucoin Management. And we played like a 40-minute set and just blew his head off.
Wow. That's impressive.
And he was, obviously he offered us a deal. Same thing with, Chris Wright from Chrysalis Records came in and saw. So that little studio in Braintree, I've got some great memories of that, and some of the major people that came to see us, recording our first album with Paul Stanley. Right. Holy crap! 27-year-old guy, and I'm sitting out there singing background vocals to "Don't Ever Want to Lose You," and Paul Stanley's in the studio telling me, "Hey, Hirsh, you want to try that track again, man? It's a little flat." It's like,
yeah.
And one of the great things about working with a guy like Paul Stanley is, number one, the guy's an incredible musician and probably doesn't get all the credit for being that good a musician that he should be getting, because I think their show far outweighs. I hope I'm not saying this the wrong way. The show is what actually captures you when you're out there. You forget about the musicianship, but this guy's like an A1 musician. He heard everything. If I was out of tune or rhythmically singing the wrong part, he would correct that. So, those are some of the great memories, man. It's like a lot of good times.
Cool. Is there any chance of unreleased New England tracks that'll see the light of day?
There's a record label in Europe. I think it was Cherry Red. And speaking of Giles Lavery, Giles was involved in this with Jimmy and myself. We all had cassette tapes and reel-to-reel tapes of songs that New England had done over the years, like way back in 77, 78, 79, up through 83 when we broke up. And what Giles had done is he had compiled all of these tapes and pieces of music and put them together. And Cherry Red released a 5-set CD box set of all of our old material. So most everything that we have, I just found a boatload of cassettes in my garage. Wow. And I just bought a cassette player on Amazon the other day because I didn't have a cassette player. So I'm going to go through some of those, and there might be some material that was that we hadn't found, but most of it's out there. And if you look up online, you can probably find all that stuff.
Cool. So yeah, did I miss anything you like to talk about?
Well, listen, all the fans out there, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that people still know about New England, still know about Hirsh Gardner. The only way that you can really support all of us is to go out there and buy the damn records, buy the CDs, because we need that. It's really difficult these days to, with all the downloads and things like that. I think I got a royalty check of $73 for the airplay last month, so that's kind of where it's at. You get 1 million plays and you get, $50. But, please support all the musicians that are out there still doing it. We love what we do. We want to give you something that you could enjoy. And especially with this album, listen, I got 6 New England songs on that album that deserve a new listening. Don't Ever Want to Lose You was a top 40 hit single back in the day. I felt that it really never got its due I think it should have been the #1 hit single. And from what I've read on, a lot of the people are making comments about that. Well, how come that band didn't do better than they did? And
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
there were a lot of reasons for that. The record company folding right in the middle of our, first tour. But Don't Want to Lose You. Thank you, John Fana, for writing such a great song. It deserved to see the light of day again.
Mhm.
And I'm so proud of the job that we did on that song. Jimmy and Gary played on that with me. Chris Laney played guitars. That song deserves a new listening. So go out and pick up the record on DecoEntertainment.com and support your local musicians, man.
Cool, cool. Anything about any shows maybe coming up?
You know what? My focus right now is promoting this album. So you're going to see a lot of videos. I'm doing a lot of videos here at home, and I'm putting them up on social media so that fans can get a little taste of each one of the songs. Maybe they'll be inspired to go out and buy it. I just did a great video last week for "I'm Not Down," which is one of the unreleased New England songs
Cool.
that I covered. So yeah, please just watch my videos, and that's basically what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be focusing on that. Maybe in 25, we'll put the Hirsh Gardner project back together and go and do some shows.
Cool, cool. Well, congratulations on Third Time's the Charm. November 22nd, 4 days away. Pick it up. Go to Deko. Go wherever to get it. Media, everything. Hirsh, it was great talking to you, and an honor.
All right.
Definitely.
Thank you, my friend. And thanks to guys like you. You're keeping the rock and roll alive, and we appreciate you.
Cool. You want to say anything to the fans out there?
Thank you all very much for enjoying our music for the last 40 odd years, and we ain't done yet. So keep an ear open.
Thanks a lot, Hirsh. Bye-bye.
See you later.